Good afternoon, Andrew. Thank you for taking some time out of your schedule and getting involved in Business Owner Spotlight. Go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us all about what you do.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Andrew Kelly. I'm the owner and founder of 8590. So 8590 is a digital content creation business in Newton Abbey. So our primary services would be videography and photography. But we also offer training workshops, audits, and drone footage.
Fantastic. And I mean, video seems to be like the best medium to communicate in these days. I'm sure you're run off your feet. Who would be your ideal client then? Who would you most like to work with?
Yeah, I'd say probably the ideal client, like every business owner would say, be the ones that pay big fees for the big projects. Now there are far and few between at times, but I think for me, the ideal client is someone who, number one, appreciates my time and the value that I bring to their project. For me, that's the most important thing. Number two is a client who lets me have creative control of a project. By all means, clients have their input and can have their say, but certainly to a point where a client is micromanaging you and sort of putting their own stamp on things without letting you do what you do best. Certainly that's something I look for in a client. And also, number three, clients who make a difference in the world, who are positively impacting on social economy and doing things for the good of the world, are certainly people I like to work with.
Fantastic. And when you say about the client putting their spin, is that where you just feel you can add more value if you have a bit more creative input? Is that how that works?
Yes, I've been sort of in this role almost 7.5, 8 years now, but I've only been out on my own with my own business just over 3 now. So I think by this stage I sort of know what works and what doesn't work, especially from a creative point of view. So my background was 10 years in comms and PR and marketing. So again, that whole digital channel, I do have a good steer of what visually looks appealing. So I think I can certainly advise clients, and as much as my job is taking nice photos and videos, there is very much an advisory role there. Again, I can advise clients on what I think looks best personally and what will work well for them. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that pay the bills. So whatever they want, they get. So I don't necessarily always agree with the creative direction some clients take. But like I say, at the end of the day, they're the client and they get the final say in it.
Customers are always right.
Sometimes.
And that, so you mentioned there 3.5 years. Tough 3.5 years to go out on your own. Yeah,
so the wheels in motion really started sort of the end of 2019 in my old place of work to leave there and go out on my own, and then sort of officially left that role 2 weeks before COVID hit in February 2020. So obviously a massive shock to the system. There was 3 months work lined up there in 2020, equated about £7,500 of work, and then in the space of a day it was completely gone. People cancelling bookings, and yeah, I sort of had to take a step back and think, was this really the right decision doing this? But I think we were too far down the line in my previous agency to turn back, so we just had to make the best of it.
And when you say make the best of it, what did you do? How did you pivot? How did you overcome those obstacles?
Yeah, well, I guess coming from a very corporate world, something in the background fell down there. Leave it down for now. Sorry, do you want to prompt me in again with?
Yeah. So how did you pivot? How did you get through those obstacles in that difficult time?
Yeah, so obviously starting a new business is tough anytime, but starting it at the very beginning of a pandemic, which we thought was going to be 3 weeks and done.
Yeah.
In the first couple of weeks, I was still pretty easy with how things were, because I thought 3 weeks it's going to be done dust. I just need to see it out, and then obviously things escalated a lot, and that wasn't the case. So yeah, very tough few months. I'll be brutally honest, I suffered with depression for probably about 3 to 4 months. I went from working in an agency where I was doing 60 hours a week to literally nothing overnight. So that was a real shock to the system. And when you couldn't physically leave your house or go anywhere, again, for someone who was super independent and never in his house, to being locked away 24/7, it was a very, very difficult experience. But what I do say, and people say I'm mad when I say this, is COVID was probably one of the best things that could have happened to my business, because like you say, it did give me that chance to really step back from the business and pivot and think, where do I want to take this business and how do I get there? So very much I knew whenever COVID kicked in the overdrive, that the corporate world was not coming back anytime soon. And really, in the last year, it's only come back, and even at that, it's still not where it was pre-pandemic. So very much I had to look at industries I had no experience in. How was I going to work with these guys, and how was I going to get foot in the door? So there's a lot of taking a step back, planning, almost future-proofing the business straight off the bat. So probably where the business is now is probably 3 to 4 years ahead of where I really expected it to be. So initially launched, it was going to be a video-only business, and then it became clear very soon there's a lot more need for additional services, which we created very fast and added to. So very much the business accelerated faster than I ever would have expected it to, but that was because of COVID, and that's almost been a blessing for me. So very much that time and that reflection of having no distractions and actually not being able to go anywhere was actually a pretty good thing for the business.
But yeah, I love the hear how it's come good, and you're actually ahead of what you thought now, and I actually appreciate you being so candid there as well, because it was I think we can forget just how difficult and how shocking it was for so many young and small businesses. But the thing that I'm taking from that is that you took that step back, you had that reflection, and then you planned. Do you still take time to do that now when things are in full swing again?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot harder now because thankfully I'm extremely busy. It's a good problem to have. But just in the last sort of 2 to 3 months, I have really made that conscious decision to look ahead and again future-proofing the business. So I'm working with Invest NI and a business consultant through one of the local enterprise agency programs. Again, it's free coaching and mentoring, which I can't recommend enough. It's a resource that's available to everyone in the Antrim and Newtownabbey area for this program. So we spend maybe an hour and a half a week, and that's for the next sort of 6 weeks as well, just looking at the business, how we can proactively target new sectors, how we can be a bit more strategic in our approach in terms of approaching people, because very much in my industry, the old cold calling rarely, if never, works. So it's looking at being a wee bit more proactive. So we've been working on developing the website further and then the social media and linking them together. So there's a bit more synchronicity across all the platforms. And again, then, approaching people and getting out there a bit more and doing that. So very much it's myself in the business, but I'm wearing 10 business hats at the minute. So it's a lot to juggle. So trying to proactively find that time to get that is far and few between. So I think you just have to be extremely disciplined and lock yourself away in your office, whether it's an hour or two a week, and just get the head down and think, right, where's next for the business and how do we make it there?
Yeah, totally agree. What about then when you're describing there working on the business and working with the mentor, and that's putting your business owner hat on? Where do you see, how far out are you looking? Are you looking for a few years out, or do you see the business in 3 years' time, for example?
I think I don't like to think too far ahead. I always like to make sure there's a healthy pipeline there of clients. My last month we worked with our 100th client, so did, which is an amazing milestone for such a short time. When you really look at the first year of business, really the first 14 months of the business, 10 months of that was in lockdown, where we physically could not work and be around people. So you're talking essentially just over 2 years, we've had 100 clients already. So I'm extremely proud of that. And a lot of those clients, some of them are one-off projects and you don't hear from them again, but a lot of them is repeat custom and referral work. And, as much as I really appreciate that and love that, having that pipeline of new customers ready to go and bringing new faces in the doors is almost as important. So it is. So it's not looking too far ahead, but it's making sure that we're ahead of the curve and we're making sure our products and our services are right, and we're sort of on that trend of digital marketing, almost ahead of the market. So whenever something is new and current, we're able to offer that to clients instead of 6 months after the trends fizzled out, we're then offering it. So it's important to have your finger on the pulse in terms of what's happening in the industry as well. So it's not necessarily just about the business, but it's looking the wider outside world and those needs and how we can capitalize on them. So certainly, I think over the next few years, the plan would be to try and get a few people on, maybe full-time, if not part-time. I have another photographer I bring on a ad hoc basis. So he helps on some bigger projects where there's maybe video and photography needed at the same time. So it's very hard for me to do both at the same time. So he comes in and does that. So it's very nice having him on board, and he's extremely talented photographer, we get on very well, and again, if I could bring him on full time, I would, but again, we just need to make sure that the business is sustainable in the long run. So I think I would like to just keep continuing to build it and to grow at that point where there's a potential sale of the business, and then reinvest that money and move into another business then perhaps.
Brilliant. And it sounds like you're well on that journey, and you've got the business in a really good place. Just one last question then. If you could go back and start the business again, is there anything you would do differently?
It's hard to say. I think just because of the way COVID hit at the same time the business was launching, it's difficult to say. It's the one question I probably get asked a lot by entrepreneurs or people looking to start on their own is, you know, how do I know when the time is right to start my own business? And there's no one point in life where the stars will align and everything's perfect for you. There'll always be obstacles in your way. Even 2-3 years into a business, you'll always find obstacles. So I always say, go for it. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. Because there's no point in getting to 40, 50, 60 years of age and thinking, I wish I'd have done that sooner. You know, that's the one thing I hear from people who have went out and started their own business later in life. I wish I had started that sooner. Maybe for myself, maybe if I'd have started business maybe a year or two sooner, maybe that would have been the one thing I would have changed. Certainly I have no regrets in terms of leaving my old company and starting the business. Sort of the time I did, I just turned 30, and I thought this is sort of the time to do it. If it doesn't work out, I'm still young enough to go back into other work again. And certainly I think that's a lot of the issues people have whenever they're looking to go out, is they're scared to make that jump, and that's understandable. I think it's important to have that safety net and that nest egg financially if it doesn't work out. But certainly I think, as I say, there's no right time to do it. I think you just have to be brave and, one, believe in the product and service you're offering to customers, and two, believe in yourself that you can go out and do it.
Andrew, that's brilliant. Can't think of better advice or a better way to finish up. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and coming on and sharing that with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.